All right, Silver Doctors live on air. Excited to be back for another live stream. A lot of things worthy of talking about. So let's get this thing started. My name is Mike, the co-host of Silver Doctors live on air. Got my better half here, Mr. Half Dollar, Paul Half Dollar. How you doing, my friend?
Doing good today, Mike. Happy Monday to you. It's January 13th, so we're already through the middle of the month here. This is moving along at a crisp pace and a whole lot of stuff to talk about.
Yes, it is moving pretty fast. So with that being the case, let's acknowledge a couple people in the chat, and then we can get right into today's live stream. So we have Peter Pun says hi from Cali. We got Jason says good day everyone. Tony Blaylock, hello family from Oakland. Gary D, we got Pabar, we got Chris, we got John Michael, we got James. Okay, so we got a couple people here. Rob is here, Carlos is here, Zach. So that being the case, Mr. Half Dollar, how do you want to kick this off this afternoon?
We have to start off talking about propaganda.
Okay.
And I think it would be important today to show just how the propaganda machine works. And, of course, I'm talking about Iran again and the U.S.-Iran crisis. I still think that we're in this ongoing crisis here. Mm-hmm. That first link I sent you is from an article I put up on Silver Doctors yesterday.
Okay.
And I just want to show you a good example of how the propaganda machine works. Now, if you look at that, there's a Secretary Pompeo tweet from Saturday, actually.
Yeah.
And he's saying, the voice of the Iranian people is clear. They are fed up with the regime's lies, corruption, ineptitude, and brutality. And then he shows a little video. And in that video, it's like 1 minute long. And it's like, maybe a couple blocks of protesters.
Yeah.
Right, maybe a couple blocks of protesters. Now, he's calling that the voice of the Iranian people. I don't know if you have that up there or not.
I do.
Basically, they're just talking about, the Iranian people have spoken. They want regime change. Now, I ask you, scroll down a little bit to that Washington Post YouTube embed in that article that I put up. And I would ask you, what's actually the voice of the Iranian people? Because if you look at that Washington Post little clip there,
yeah,
I mean, there are millions of people in that Soleimani funeral procession, right? So there's like millions of people supporting the Soleimani funeral procession, and, maybe a couple thousand people. Who knows where they came from, and who knows how many agent provocateurs are embedded with them in Iran protesting, for the regime change.
Yeah.
So, this is just like, this is not the voice of the Iranian people. This is hardcore U.S. deep state propaganda. That's what this is. And you can already see the narrative being spun because, well, what, you support the Iranians? And supposedly this is because because Iran downed this jetliner, right? They admitted that they accidentally did this. The question I would ask is, how many civilians have we accidentally killed in drone strikes over the years?
Yeah.
Or just in war in general,
Yeah.
But there's a couple things about this, right? President Trump, there's two President Trump tweets because he tweeted about it yesterday and then again about it today, right? So this is still an ongoing crisis. Mm-hmm. He says to the leaders of Iran, do not kill your protesters. Thousands have already been killed or imprisoned by you, and the world is watching. More importantly, the USA is watching. Turn your internet back on and let the reporters roam free. Stop killing the people, your great Iranian people. That was yesterday. And then and then again, right, last evening he put out, National Security Advisor suggested today that sanctions and the protests, right, that couple thousand people in a 2-block radius in Iran, have Iran choked off, right? They've choked off Iran with those protests. Will force them to negotiate. Actually, I couldn't care less if they negotiate. Wait a second, you can't care less if they negotiate? What happened last week when we were doing the play-by-play? And it was like, we want to make a deal to have world peace, and we will support that, right? It's like, so this is just, I just need to show this how the propaganda works, because sometimes people don't understand how the propaganda works. What we're being told here is that the voice of the Iranians have stood up and they're taking a stand against the Ayatollah and these clerics, and they want change. And Secretary Pompeo saying, yeah, rah, change. Trump saying, change. But like when you look at, that's what we're being told. But when you look at it, that's not what's really going on. And if you call it out, well, you're just siding with the terrorists then.
Oh, really?
So those are just where I wanted to start. And the point with that is There's massive propaganda going on, and this crisis is far from over. All that's happened is that the U.S. has shifted tactics for several reasons, which we could get into if we want, but the U.S. has shifted tactics. Instead of actually engaging in hot war, now we're starting to stir this domestic insurrection again to accomplish regime change. It's the same script everywhere, right? Exactly. Venezuela, I mean, you just name the country. So I'll just stop there and go ahead.
All right. So as you were describing that and giving that narrative there, the first thing came to mind was Venezuela, how John Bolton was talking about Maduro is killing his people, he's starving them, all the negatives from what the mainstream media tells us. But yet, once again, is it as bad as they say it is? Of course. But yet, on the financial side, on the economic side, it's that bad. But I didn't foresee or don't think that the people are that fed up, because once you remove that particular gentleman, Maduro, referring to Maduro, then they're going to put in a U.S. puppet, and that puppet's going to really, rob their own people and stuff like that. So, of course, they paint this real bad picture, which builds up a case for them to say that we need to intervene. Like, we can't not allow this to happen. They're slaughtering all that stuff like that. So, way to highlight all that good stuff there.
Yes, and this is throughout the mainstream media today, and this is like CNN, this is Fox, this is Reuters, this is Bloomberg, right? All of these, all the mainstream sources and even the financial press is all harping on this today.
Yeah.
So just the point there is we got to be careful what we take in, because oftentimes it's to achieve a specific goal, and in this case of the U.S. deep state and the military-industrial complex.
Right, and so I know also something that comes to mind in regards to this is this past weekend had some pretty good chit-chat about the whole, them bombing the Iraqi base, and then the next day President Trump said no one was hurt, we're all fine, and then on Friday, let's sanction them. So it looks like the fact that they attacked the U.S. assets, there was no harm, no foul, nobody got hurt, it's okay, let's increase the sanctions. And so in my weekend chat, something came up about the fact that plane went down, who was on that plane, and why did it go down at that particular time, plays into the fact that this has been blown over by Donald Trump. And so it's one of the things where we can put our tinfoil hat on, I don't mind for a quick second, but until we understand better the ramifications of a down plane, which took 48 hours for them to admit that it looks like it was some missiles that came from the Iranians themselves. I'm wondering, and I'm assuming we might find out in the alternative media space who was on that plane and what was the significance of that person or people, and unfortunately all the casualties around that individual or group of people is something I think we hopefully will hear about soon, because that, the plane went down. I'm not hearing much on the mainstream news about it myself.
Yeah, but not only that, but also think about the importance of the plane, because the plane takes the focus off of what happened to Soleimani, right? I mean, we look at it as we had to kill that evil terrorist, and that's a good thing. Trump did the right thing. That's not how the rest of the world see it. The rest of the world sees this as a war crime, as a political assassination. So they got to take the focus off of that right away. Yeah. Right. So
another thing is, from the mainstream news, I think it was on Thursday, Thursday or Friday, seeing some of the headlines is that the Iranians are in the streets because they're mad that their government is lying to them about the plane being shot down, and the government denying the fact that, they were not sure if they did or didn't, type of thing. And so I heard a lot of that being the narrative as to why people were back in the streets again. And so, at this point, what can you believe, who can you believe, unless you actually go there and actually interview some people directly and say, why are you on the streets today, type of thing. So, yeah, but it's so many narratives being spun out by the mainstream news. It's all to a much greater point of some kind. So hopefully we'll see. Hopefully we'll understand and see what it is.
Well said. Let's move on.
Before we move on to the next one, let's check into the chat real quick and get some thoughts and see what people think about this, and see if there's any other developments that we may not have come across ourselves. So with that being the case, anybody have any thoughts directly on that whole chain of events from this past end of last week? Feel free to let us know, and we can definitely shine some light on it. And let me see, anything stand out to you, and as well highlight at Silver Doctor so it stands out. Or if you have a thought directly, call 567-336-0844. We can get you on here. So Iranian people are not the threat. Government around the world are the enemy of the people. People are uprising all around the world against government, and the U.S. needs to do the same. All right, so good interesting thought there. Yellow vests have been out for years. Yeah, so a lot of that protest now has to do with the pension reform or the removal of some of those funds that they were promised that everybody's going to be reneged upon at some point. But
and when it's in Europe, we've seen these police brutality videos, right, where they're like just literally beating the protesters with the billy clubs and they're tear gassing them and all this and all that. So they just avoid that because it's Europe. But if it's Iran, oh my God, they're attacking the protesters. Someone was talking about spies on that plane. That's a good point. I think Eric C. was talking about that. I mean, sure, there's a lot of sketchy stuff and a lot of black ops going on one way or another.
Yeah.
And I can't remember where I heard this, but something like 80% of all plane crashes aren't just coincidental. They're actually taken down on purpose to kill a specific person.
In the chat right now, Hari, somebody that's watching, made an interesting comment here that's worth mentioning. It says the autopilot was taken over, ? And aiming at an Iranian military base, ? Rumors. And so once again, just the whole autopilot, and as you just referenced that prior to me reading that, was it shot down intentionally? You see, this one of the things where
yes. Do you remember when I showed you that video in Chile about a month ago where there was this drone filming and they had and this is just people in the streets, right? And they had dedicated these lasers on it and they literally took this drone down. It's what they call electronic warfare, right? And it's real, right? And I mean, I've seen this and I've participated in this, right? And, you can take over a plane and crash it where you want it. Absolutely, without a doubt. No doubt. You can take over a car and crash it where you want it. Absolutely. So, if that wouldn't surprise me at all, one way or another. So we're not going to know.
That's one of the problems. That's one of the problems I have with, the push to move everybody to electrical vehicles. So GM just announced a Hummer that's electric, Tesla truck, Tesla this, and then somebody mentioned Tesla stock at I guess an all-time high. And so that's one of the things that concerns me. If you're not driving your own car, then an algorithm or the back door to that software system can any point in time decide what it wants to do with you. So that's one of the benefits of having an old school car with a carburetor that you can get under the hood yourself.
And that's one of the reasons why I drive a stick shift to this day. Let me put on my tinfoil hat here.
Because you
can have a little bit more control with the stick
exactly.
shift.
And so before we move on to the next topic, Ryan mentions Tesla stock soared past 500 a couple times. I've seen it, but I haven't dived into it myself. But not sure what that's all about. What the artificial pump is, because Tesla, to my knowledge, they necessarily haven't been doing the greatest overall. But I'll leave that alone. So I'm not too familiar with the Tesla stock rise and pump and dump. Who's buying it? I didn't buy no Tesla stock, so. Maybe Ryan, you bought some Tesla stock and you're the reason why it's up at all-time highs. So,
and Eric C says Ukraine flight equals MH17. I'm not versed in MH17, so I never went down that rabbit hole. So I don't even know one way or another.
Yeah.
Just to throw that out there because you did highlight us, and I'm not. I don't know much about MH17.
Me I'm not sure.
But then Chris, thank you for giving the shout out there. I appreciate that. I'm not even going to try that last name. Yeah. Moving on, the main topic is the trade war.
Okay.
And, this is interesting because I don't know if it's the main topic or not. It's just our next topic.
Yeah.
Whenever President Trump goes somewhere, right, he always tweets out, I'm heading over Europe now and I'm going to strong arm NATO and they're going to pay for this, or I'm heading over here and I'm going to do that, or I'm going to go do this and here I am, working hard for this.
Yeah.
Supposedly the Chinese delegation is in Washington today through Wednesday and they're going to sign it on Wednesday. How come there's not a peep about the trade deal? There's not a peep about the trade deal.
I don't know.
Now, because usually said working on something really big and there's not been a word about it. Now on December, let me get my date right here. It was December 31st, 2019. President Trump tweeted out, I will be signing our very large and comprehensive phase 1 trade deal with China on January 15th. Then remember, last Thursday, and we talked about it in our show last Thursday night after President Trump's rally, they asked him about it. He was like, well, it could be after the 15th. I'm not too sure. And then this morning, there's nothing about the trade deal from him yet. No announcements on Twitter. And people were like, well, that's just Twitter. Yeah, but doesn't he tweet things like, I give in Congress hereby official notice that I will strike Iran if we need to, right? So, I mean, it's like he does do things through Twitter, right?
Yeah.
But he's been silent on that. But so here's the thing, right? Just a quick update because we need to know where we are in this process. First of all, just getting the USMCA out of the way. There is no USMCA still, right? 2 days ago, Grassley was saying, well, we haven't voted on it yet in the Senate because the impeachment's holding everything up. But the House voted on it when they were in the impeachment. So, I mean, that kind of sounds like a cop-out to me.
Yeah.
So there's no USMCA trade deal. As far as this phase 1 trade deal with China, I mean, we'll have to see, right? How come there's been no announcements about it yet this week? Everybody's speculating about it. Here's my point with that, though, right? Could there be a hit coming to the U.S. dollar in the form of a devaluation? And here's why I asked that. We don't know what the terms of this trade deal are, right? We don't know what's in it, and we won't know what's in it until after it's signed.
Yeah, I personally, I would like to find out exactly what's in it. I mean, it'll be great. Wouldn't it be great if they actually, put it out there for the American people to get a glance at it, share our thoughts, and then, respond back. That doesn't look good. We all on Twitter respond back, so that doesn't look good. Let's go back to the table again because I would like to see, this and that. But yet, they're making deals on behalf of the American people that will impact the world, and 300 and something million people in this country have no clue what's in it. It's good to say majority of Washington, D.C. may not know what's in it, but they're going to sign it into law eventually. And could it be a death note, a death nail to the dollar? I wouldn't doubt it because I'm of the mindset the trade deal itself is not about balancing trade in a debt-based system. It's about the reshifting of power anyway. So we're basically going to be abdicating more of our prior reserve status to the Asian region, probably. That's what I believe it's all about. So,
and that's an excellent point you make there, and it goes hand in hand with what I'm saying about the dollar. And I say that for two reasons, because the one reason is because President Trump is adamant about the fact that he just tweeted out, hold on a second, let me find the date on this. And I actually don't have the date on this, but remember when he tweeted out that, this trade deal, actually put that tweet in my Outlook this morning, but he talked about how, our strong dollar is hurting manufacturers. So that's the first point. And he says that all the time, right? Yeah. And then the second point is last year, the United States Treasury actually finally, after so many years, designated China as a currency manipulator. So that's my point with the dollar there. Yeah. So, in addition to sending power, that shift of power we talk about from west to east, well, that also on the flip side for us means a decline in the value of the dollar, whether the hit is an actual formal devaluation or whether if it's just like, some backdoor slowly walking it down agreement between the U.S. and China.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious because that's one thing that it's one of the things where it has to happen. Like, it's just a shift away from the reserve status of the Federal Reserve note as we've known it. So how will it play out is what I'm curious to find out. So that's what I'm really looking forward to finding out more about moving forward as this shift of power happens, or it's currently underway now. Because once again, China's not backing down from what they're doing and their 10, 20, 30-year plan. And their plan has a lot to do with the Belt and Road and their expansion of their governmental structure and their influence in the monetary system, because why would they be accumulating so much gold that we have no clue exactly how much they have if they weren't planning on disrupting some things that will make our lives very uncomfortable? Yes. So at the end of the day.
Yeah, those are all good points. Well said there. So, and what does that mean for the other markets in general as far as the trade deal and ramifications of it? They've been building the stock market up based on this deal that's coming. What if the deal doesn't come? The Dow hit 29,000 points on Friday. And, if the deal's not coming, is the stock market going to sell off? Is that going to give us the next up leg in gold and silver? That's point one. Point two, what if it's, buy the rumor, sell the news? So the event in and of itself triggers the selling in the stock market, right? So there is a lot of, market movements that could come out of this trade deal. And basically out of whether we have the trade deal or whether we don't have the trade deal, there still can be market ramifications either way. So this week there's going to be a lot of focus and a lot of talk on trade, I think.
Yeah. So as you're speaking, I'm trying to pull up an article here, and it has a lot to do with this trade situation. Let me actually pull it up if I can. Yeah. So I'll pull it up. So on the screen. And so just as of, I think 2 hours ago, it says Dow seeks to reclaim 29,000 as U.S.-China trade deal signing approaches. And so we've had $1,600 an ounce gold, over $18 last week, give or take, and 29,000 as well. So what's the likelihood that we reach 30,000 Dow in the next couple of months, as opposed to 1,700 gold or 19 $50 or $20 silver. And so the odds of us reaching $30,000 because that's what they want to happen is very, very likely in my opinion. But yeah, wouldn't it be great if it was the reverse?
Yeah. And they can manhandle those markets like that if they wanted to anyway, just print up the money and just keep buying.
Yeah.
Could it really be that simple? Yes, it could, right? You smash volatility, you sell gold, and you buy the indexes. I mean, it is that simple. That's what they do.
Yeah.
The only thing that backstops it is a little bit of gold and a little tiny bit of silver.
Yeah.
And it's funny you mentioned $18 silver because, February of 2008, silver was trying to break out above $18. So, we keep talking about people have been waiting so long, but I think that the wait is over as far as we're going to start seeing movement here really soon, and I think it's going to start surprising people because we've been on this 10, 14 year, arguably, if you want to talk about $16 silver back in 2006, right? You got to exclude the run in 2011, but we've been talking about this price level for the last 10 to 15 years. We're ready to run here.
Yeah.
And then it's just kicking it into place. I can't remember if there's another point I wanted to make about the Chinese the trade deal here.
In the meantime, while you're thinking, let's check in with the chat real quick and see. So so what we do as we transition from thought to thought or from subject to subject, let's check in with the chat, get any last minute thoughts. So as always, if you guys have thoughts, highlight at Silver Doctor so it'll stand out, and then we'll keep it moving. Let me see here. Nothing sticks out. Pay attention, Chris, and do your own research. So they're talking amongst themselves. Elon Musk is going to need all of the industrial silver.
Yeah. So is the Space Force.
Yeah. And so that's another interesting thing, man. Like, silver will be in high demand, or it's in high demand right now. We probably don't really truly know how much and who needs what, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be beneficial for them to get it at this price. But if it goes up $19, $20 and it becomes problematic, then it's going to impact industries being able to supply it. Therefore, something will probably break loose because, the demand's going to go up, but they can't keep that price down. And then if you're a miner trying to bring it out the ground, what's your incentive if you're not really getting paid your full buck? So, it's too many things that's going to interconnect where something has to break. So get your weight up if you haven't been already.
Well said, very well said. And and just on top of that, just the ratio, just because I talked about this again today, we've been so long, the ratio is still in the mid 80s, right?
Yeah.
So that means that right now 1 ounce of gold can get over 80 ounces of silver. When that ratio reverts, if it goes to 40, which I think is going well, under 40, then those 80 ounces of silver gets a free ounce of gold, right? When the ratio reverts.
So so watch this. I was talking to Louis Camersano. I'm gonna have that interview ready for tomorrow, and we're talking about the ratio. We talked a lot about metals, and so in April 25th, 2011, it was 32. So gold to silver is 32. So in your estimation, Mr. Half Dollar, do you see during this next correction, crash, reset, restructure, whatever it is, you see it immediately going to 32 or below, or what, in your personal opinion?
Well, in the next, as far as just in the little cycle, I can see that. I can see somewhere between 30 and 50. Ultimately, I think that we're going to parity and maybe even beyond parity for several reasons, which I've talked about before. One is that, people talk about there's not enough gold or silver to have a gold and silver standard. Well, A, it's a question of price, and B, if both metals are valued the same, then, you can have parity with that. That's just one little thing that I like to think about every once in a while. And then just secondly, the gold is still there, but the silver is more consumed, right? So for those reasons, silver in the future could become potentially more rare than gold, in that sense that we can't keep getting it out of the ground like that. So you would have the gold around, but not the silver around. So I think, I'm very bullish long-term on silver. And, you make up a great point about that 32. And we've been in the 90s, I think, just last year, right? I don't think we didn't get over 100, but I'm pretty sure it was in the 90s.
Probably so.
So if he said 33, if we were at 99, well, that's 3 ounces of gold for your silver, right? When this cycle turns around. So right now you can get 80 ounces of gold, 80 ounces of silver, but I'm running in a circle, so I'm just going to
It's all good. So with that being the case, if you guys enjoying the back and forth, don't be afraid to hit that thumbs up button there. And so someone, I think Low Blood Pressure mentioned he's trying to call in. So everything looks good on my side. So just try to give me a call back and we'll get you on here. If not, just highlight at Silver Doctors and we'll answer it that way. So
couple more quick quick topics here, Mike.
Yep, go ahead.
The one from TechCrunch.
Send it to me because I sent it to me.
This is going to be the one. This is going to be one of the ones that you're interested in. And I saw this on other websites, but some of those like Bloomberg, for example, you've reached your free article limit, and I'm not going to pay for a subscription to Bloomberg. So I just sourced the information somewhere else, right? So this is from TechCrunch, but listen to this, right? Bossa Nova's inventory robots are rolling out in 1,000 Walmart stores. Right? Yeah. There's less than 5,000 in the U.S., so this is like between 20 to 25% of the stores are going to be having these inventory rollouts. And just a couple things here, and then I'll let you talk about this because I know you have an interest in this stuff.
Yes, sir.
Remember on Friday we were talking about the jobs report, how people can't get
with you. Let me see if it connects. Reconnection successful. Okay, we are connected again, so hopefully it's on the same stream.
Yeah, and they have been pulling the plug, right? Everything that we're getting, they're just instantly demonetizing all our live streams. Now they're barely even overturning them after I submit the manual review. It's just off the chain sometimes.
Yeah, it's bad. So let's continue on, and we should be good to go. And so I'll pull an article up again. So go ahead. Yep, we're live. We're good.
Yeah. So just the point there is, I remember like stalkers and stuff like that. That's one of those jobs where it's really good for young people because not everybody can lift up the heavy boxes and all this and all that. And that teaches skills, right? How to get somewhere on time, how to do your job, how to have discipline, all of these things, right? But if the robots are going to be doing it, right? What is there for the future for this? But I know you're the authority on this, so go ahead and take that.
Oh man, and so here's the thing. I've been thinking about this not long. I actually did a podcast this morning about the post in a minute, but it has a lot to do with this because the shift is already underway. Like that's the and here's the thing. I can say this because I'm torn in between this because on one side it's sad because there's going to be so many people displaced, but then on the other end, depending on how you look at it, it's the greatest opportunity of your life because as things change, you're going to be forced to change along with it, and depending on your approach, you can use it to your benefit. Like the AI, the robotics, all that stuff like that comes with a disruption, but it's just a natural occurrence of shifting from one age to another, such as horse and buggy. It probably put a lot of horse carriages, all that stuff like that, lost of jobs, but then it created manufacturing. So now we had the automotive. So people went from the farm to the manufacturing. Now the manufacturing side is disrupted because everything's going to be automated, robotic. So there's going to be the end of a lot of jobs, but the creation of a lot of opportunity for those that are able to see it is that way. So this right here is very disruptive because it's going to cause a lot of people to be forced to think for themselves. But then again, if you use it to your benefit, it's going to be a great opportunity. Every crisis presents opportunity. And so that really plays more into really getting in touch with, what it is you want to do with your life, what your unique gifting and all that stuff like that. But I posted an article about aerospace company that's directly connected to the Max Boeing 737. And so that's problematic there. So all of the subsidiaries and affiliates and all the companies working with Boeing, they're laying off now because if they're not making a 737, that's thousands of jobs. So 2,800
really good paying jobs.
Yeah, oh my goodness. So imagine how much of a shock that'll be to your world. Where I remember, my yesteryears when I was actually a headhunter, I remember looking for engineers in the aerospace, jobs starting at $45 an hour, $53 an hour, and high level skill set individuals. So imagine losing your job now. Good thing you have a skill set that can probably get you back to work, but majority of the people who are using their hands in the labor side of things may not. So it's going to be unfortunate, but then once again, it's what you make of it. And I personally, I'm excited to encourage people to think beyond a job anyway. So go ahead.
Yeah. And there's where I think that wage deflation comes in, right? So I don't think the wage deflation is going to be at the low end. I think the wage deflation is going to be at that $40, $50, $100 an hour. Those are the people that are going to get impacted by deflation as far as wages go. Yeah, exactly. Because, real wages at the bottom have been declining for decades. Another thing just about that Walmart thing, you remember like it was probably 2014 or 16 when Walmart decided to raise their minimum wage to $9 an hour because I was still in El Paso at the time. Yeah. And that was a big deal because wages in El Paso were very, very, very low. Like all those jobs were just minimum wage. I was like, wow, how are they going to pay $9 an hour? And I thought, well, a few things are going to happen, right? They're just going to fire people and there's going to be less cashiers in there and all this and that. They're going to go to, automation and robotics. tax, which we're talking about right now, and then they're also going to raise prices, right? So it's like a triple whammy all the way around.
Yeah.
And it's just something that, and I think they just recently went to 11 an hour for just a standard. I'm not sure.
And closed down more lanes. So whenever I go to Walmart, you got the self-checkout side. They've added more of those. They put one person or two people to oversee all that, and it's 18, 20 lanes empty. And it's so, man, we're in the midst of a shift, man, and unfortunately, a lot of people aren't changing with it. So
the lanes, right, in the Walmart, it's the self-checkout is on two sides in the Walmart that I go to, and each side has 6 self-checkout, the little ones, but they also have 5 actual lanes, like if you got a full cart to do yourself. So this is very real, and this is coming. So, and this is, this is hurting the person at the low end.
Yeah.
Right?
So here's the thing, like knowing that Walmart's adding these, knowing that all the other major retailers, in order to compete and to be profitable, they're going to be adding those. As a community, as a group of individuals, we have the power to say, you know what, if you add that, we're not going to shop there. And it's unfortunate that we don't have any, there's not too many small mom and pops grocery stores up and standing still. So it's like either we do it at a major retail chain or we don't. So that's a problem. What?
It is, but we're not going to change that, right? Because people are going to be motivated by price. Do you know that brand Yeti? It's like coolers and stuff like that. You ever heard of that brand Yeti? There's this brand called Yeti, and like my whole family's got these bottles, and I like these Nalgene bottles, right? Because the Nalgene are these plastic bottles and they're made in USA. But now there's this brand called Yeti. I was looking at these in Dick's as I was spending hundreds of dollars on sweatpants yesterday for my kids. But anyway, it's amazing that a pair of sweatpants cost over $50 today in 2020, Mike. I mean, it is off the chains. $50 for sweatpants. But anyway, here's my point about that. They got these coolers, right? These Yeti coolers and these water bottles and all this and that. I saw this little tote bag, Yeti branded, $300 for a cooler/tote bag type thing. And here's the thing, right? This is like all the rage, but it's just made in China, right? Everything that Yeti has is just made in China stuff. So people, like, even if they're conscious about shopping somewhere else, about buying American or this or that, they're not going to do it, right? They're going to be influenced by the marketing in the Yeti's case, or they're going to buy by where their wallet is talking in the Walmart case.
Until they can't afford it and they realize that, the lifestyle we currently live in this country is already outside the norm for the world. Therefore, that people are going to be forced to have to trim down once we get into the results of this repo activity, this quantitative easing. I'm going to start calling it quantitative easing. As all this quantitative easing stuff begins to rear its head above water and it spills into the main economy, then at that point, people won't really be concerned with price because they may not be able to afford it, especially there's going to be, thousands of jobs lost per month. So a lot of people may not be employed to actually go shop. And so the dynamics of how we do what we do is going to change in this next 12 to 24 months. I'm probably more than willing to say I'm confident or not. That's guaranteed just because that seems to be the trend. And it won't get better. It'll get worse depending on what you and how you process it. So
last real quick topic for today.
Yes, sir.
Just because I want to get this in here. First of all, I'll read the title, and then I want to read one paragraph in it. But India's about to hand people data Americans can only dream of. So here's another example of the propaganda, right? Like this is a good thing. Listen to this, right? Here's how it works. The account aggregator system. So this is talking about like fusing data in your cell phone and finance and banking and all that, right?
Yeah.
The account aggregator system will be offered by banks and licensed by India's central bank, which will also regulate the data collection and sharing. By logging into authorized apps, users will be able to pull together all kinds of financial data, spending patterns, bill repayment, tax returns, business transactions. Like, this is not a good thing at all. How are they spinning this like it's a good thing? This is like totalitarian, cut you off because you did something that the government doesn't like.
Yeah, that's I mean, for a country that already has a lot of issues, I would imagine there's going to be some incentives on top of that. Like, the best way to spin off something that completely takes away from you is to package it up with a bow and arrow with a bow on it. It says that it's going to be good for you. It's going to make banking easier for you. We'll give you a tax incentive. There's going to be some type of incentive that would lead people to buy to give over more of their freedom anyway. And on top of that, the Indian dynamic, I'm not even really familiar with it to where I know that they're heavy metals people anyway. So everybody who has something has it in form of metals, and on a day-to-day basis they use the rupee. But they're trying to take the rupee away from them completely, the physical rupee, and give them a digital rupee, just like China's doing with the yuan. They're giving them a digital yuan, but the people still have gold and silver, though. So, yeah.
And just like with China, they're talking about fusing it in with your credit score, right? So you get the access to the data, and you combine the banking, and you combine the credit score, and it's just like, my goodness.
Yeah.
So I mean, and then that's the spin, right? Because that's the push, like we talk about, to the cashless society and the war on cash and all this and all that. And here it is, plain as day. And this was also in Bloomberg, which I couldn't, give you that one link because, I've reached my free article limit. So,
so watch this. To play in further to that, that was about 6 or 7 different industries squeezed into an app. And so as more people are forced to use that app, that means there's going to be less demand for all those brick and mortar stores that used to house those same companies that are now forced to go into the app. So those 6 or 7 industries, they're going to have to lay off now because that's more manpower than they need, therefore increasing more unemployment because people now can just go to their phone and get everything done there. So think about the thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that will be removed from their job and forced to learn a new skill or enter a new sector or take on a new occupation or something. So that's just the advancement of technology. If you see it coming, hopefully you're adjusting and make it and use it to your advantage. Like I'm, on my end here, getting caught up in this stuff right here, I'm trying to learn about new ways to use all this stuff that we're being forced to adapt to anyway. Use it to your advantage so that it won't be a shock if you happen to be forced to only use it. So. Yeah, my 2 cents.
yeah. I mean, we're going to be forced to use it, right? But luckily, there's still privacy to fall back on and gold and silver when it gets really crazy. Low blood pressure made a comment. Paul, put it on your credit card. Mike, I kid you not. It was 3 pairs of sweatpants and 2 pairs of shorts, and it was $220-some.
Oh, yeah, not in my household. I don't do that. I don't tolerate that, Mr. Habdollah. I've noticed, Mr. Habdollah, you're very generous with your children, not me. we bargain shop, or you not going to have it. So
yeah, I mean, I had to wear, like, the irregular clothes, where, like, it's sewn wrong, so maybe it's because I had, like, this terrorizing childhood where I was always the kid that was made fun of because I had to wear the weird looking clothes or this or all that. So or I had to shop at Big Lots or get my clothes at Sears. So it's like now it's like I just give my kids what they want.
Hey,
so
I understand that.
Bad on my part.
I understand that, my friend. All right, so as we get ready to dial back, let's any last thoughts you want to share with us? Nothing stand out in the chat. We're gonna be back Wednesday more time, and I got an interview. Go ahead.
Yeah. Just the last thing is just, the key word this week is phase 1 trade deal. And, there could be market movement here one way or another. And if there's no trade deal, things could get interesting with gold and silver because everybody's expecting them to just come crashing right back down again. But there's been so many things that happen that, I think that we're still bullish here. And gold has completely refilled that gap from that Sunday night missile launching or whichever night that was.
Yeah.
So, there's going to be a lot of fundamental issues coming into the market this week, and the fundamental issues are going to be related to the trade deal or the no trade deal. Yeah. So that's all I got to close with there from my side, Mike.
Yeah, sounds good. And so for those that are anticipating more interesting market activity, just keep an eye on the Dow Jones. As it goes up, if you are in that realm, then you are probably benefiting, but also keep in mind that what goes up must come down. Therefore, if the trade deal falls out, I would imagine that thing will probably, come down a little bit. But then again, it's going to go right back up. So I said if the trade deal falls through, it'll drop a couple hundred points. But guaranteed within 24 to 48 hours, it's going to be back up at 30,000. And the question will be how? But yet that's the world we live in. It's upside down. So with that being the case, it's been great hanging out with you guys. If you've enjoyed the back and forth, don't be afraid to donate a thumbs up beneath this video. And other than that, connect with us. We got our Twitter information there. Connect with us on Twitter. And so do you post stuff throughout the day? Your articles?
I on Twitter we manually tweet, so I post a little bit sometimes, but I'm not too involved just because there's so much going on. But we do tweet and stuff. Yeah, best.
So check it out during the day. I try to tweet whenever I can. And other than that, look forward to bringing you more news and updates. Interview tomorrow with Louis Camersano. It was definitely a good one. And then back at it Wednesday, same time, same place, talking about what's going on. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. Peace.